Let's talk about Quest. Meet our framework for query-driven explanations on tabular data. Quest works on any tabular dataset and any classification model. It provides explanations of classifier outputs for individual data samples in the form of query pairs. Use it to examine the behavior of your model in any corner of your feature space, compare model architectures, and iterate in your exploration. For your convenience, we provide a Jupyter notebook illustrating the process and possibilities. Let's have a look. To get you started right away, we include a couple of datasets and classifiers with Quest. You might know the iris dataset, determining what kind of iris a flower belongs to, based on the size of its petals and sepals. Quest includes a few basic pre-processing steps out of the box. This is particularly useful for the purpose of providing interpretable outputs. Categorical attributes will be one-hot encoded and numerical attributes scaled according to mean and standard deviation. However, you may of course apply different pre-processing steps to your data before loading and disable these standard transformations if more suitable to your use case. You can also use any tabular dataset that is stored in a CSV file compatible with Panda's default configuration. Quest expects categorical data to be included in the form of strings, while all other columns are expected to be numerical. Quest works with discrete and continuous attributes. Ordinal data should be encoded numerically. You can now point out your target attribute and whether it's necessary to transform a multi-class task into a binary classification task. We've included a variety of example architectures ranging from linear regression to gradient-boosted trees and a multi-layer perceptron. But using a custom classifier is as easy as defining the architecture and parameters. Any classifier compatible with scikit-learn's base estimator and classifier mixin will work. Simply provide a constructor. Let's get explaining. With a dataset prepared, all you need to do is select a classifier and then specify your data sample. Once Quest finishes explaining your sample, you will receive a pair of human-readable queries Q and not Q. Quest will show you the feature space based on the two most important features for explaining this sample. Q describes a local neighborhood in which the classifier reliably selects the same label as for your original data sample. This corresponds to the red area. Not Q complements this by providing a neighborhood of the opposite class. That's the blue area. Feel free to zoom in and inspect your neighborhood more closely. Accompanying our query pair, there are several performance metrics for this particular explanation. First is coverage. This tells you how much of the original dataset is contained in the neighborhood. A more general explanation has a bigger coverage. Second is class balance. This covers the ratio of same label and opposite label samples in the neighborhood. Finally, accuracy describes for how many samples in the neighborhood the explanation and the classifier agree on a label. You can add a held-out development test set to the visualization to get an impression of the original data distribution and outliers. For this sample, Quest has determined that the ratio of the petal width to the petal height is important to discriminate one type of iris from the others. For a totally different flower, the sepals might be more important. In other words, looking at these two features works because we generate local explanations. The sample, query pair, and metric values are also available for you in variables, so you can use them in any code you write. If you would like to select a different sample to explain, you can do so by double-clicking a sample directly from the plot. Quest will show you the feature values and generate an explanation, same as before. Metrics will be added to the table and shown in the plot for easy comparison. This was only the basic functionality of Quest. You can also generate for one data sample through several classification models to compare how consistent their behavior is. Quest does not rely on the architecture or any other property of the classifier, which means you can directly compare metrics for each explanation. If you don't have a specific sample in mind, Quest can pick any number for you. You can also restrict the sampling to a region by using a previously generated query or selecting the area from the visualization. Thanks to the nature of notebooks, it is also no trouble at all to repeat your process with a different dataset, classifier, or metric. If you would like to run a whole set of experiments instead of interactively exploring, there is no need to repeat the process or copy your code. You may provide your requirements for Quest in a YAML config file. After specifying a default configuration that will be used for each experiment, continue to label and adapt any number of experiments. Quest will run them all for you, keeping results and failures separate. We hope Quest will assist you in the development, choice, and evaluation of your classification model on any tabular dataset.